Samsung is the #1 smartphone maker in the world, and they have been for a couple of years. At least they are for now. That could change very soon if things continue the way they are. I'll tell you all about it right after this.
This is, you listening to Travis.
What up, players? Welcome back, and for all you new people, welcome. My name's Travis, and I do tech videos every single week and have a blast doing them. If that sounds like fun to you, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Anything I talk about will be in the description below. But for now, let's just get into the video. I've been saying for a little while now that smartphones have been pretty darn good for a couple years, and upgrading is kind of a thing of the past, or at least it's certainly not as necessary as it used to be. As a matter of fact, I just recently released a video. If you missed it, you need to see it. I spent a tremendous amount of time and effort getting this thing out, where I reviewed an iPhone 6s in 2019, came to some really interesting conclusions. Make sure you stay to the very end of that video, because something really interesting happened. And the point is this: less and less people are upgrading every single year. We've been talking about this for months, but numbers have continued to come out. And once again, sales of smartphones across the board have slumped to the lowest in 5 years. Now, this has pretty much been across the board. Samsung taking an 8% hit year over year, which is nothing to smile about. And Apple taking a 30% hit year over year. And there's a lot of reasons for the Apple thing, and I think that I captured most of them in the iPhone 6s review I just did. Like, their phones just last a really long time, and that's a problem. For Samsung, I think it's slightly different. Just in general, smartphones are able to hang on for a lot longer, and no matter what you do to try to make them obsolete, whether you try to slow them down artificially or whatever, most people are just hanging on to them. They don't want to spend a whole bunch of money every single year. They do it every, sometimes 3 to 4 years now. And like I've said 100 times before, the upgrading every 2 years because your contract is up, a lot of these mobile carriers now don't even have contracts, is kind of a thing of the past. And now that you can get deals on things like Swappa or eBay, where you get used phones, especially flagships of just a couple years ago, for a lot less money, people are saving money. But interestingly, one company has actually done really well this past year. They've gone up 50% in 1 year. And when you look at the overall landscape of smartphones, this is almost impossible. It's crazy. And what this has done is it made them the #2 smartphone manufacturer in the world, right behind Samsung. And here's the thing: they might actually be #1 if they were ever allowed to sell directly in the United States. That's right, they're #2 and can't even legitimately sell in the US. That is crazy. And that company is Huawei. Now, if you're outside of the US, you've heard of these guys. They have the Mate 10, the Mate Pro, the Mate 20, all of the Mates. We got none of the Mates here in the US. That's not to say you can't buy them. Of course, you can go on Amazon and buy a Huawei phone, or you can go online and buy one, but they basically have no real foothold here in the US because they don't advertise in the US and they are not on any of the carriers in the US. And that basically means that they don't exist here, regardless of whether or not you can get a hold of one. Because the vast majority of people who are actually buying phones are the ones that walk into a store or can go to the carrier's website and buy the phone. Here in the US, they've never heard of Huawei. They don't know who they are. And that's a good thing for Samsung, because if you look at this data right here, if Huawei were just to sell the same amount of phones in America as LG did, and trust me, they would be able to do that, then the striking distance between these two would be much smaller than it already is. And that's not saying they couldn't take away sales from Samsung. I guarantee you they would. If Huawei was able to release a bunch of phones here in America, if our government didn't stop them, they might be #1 this very moment. And even if they weren't right now, if they're ever let in, they still might become #1. And what's most crazy is, even if they don't ever get a foothold in America, they still might become #1. With the way the entire industry is going down and somehow Huawei is going up, man, Samsung better hold on tight. Somehow I feel like Huawei is Arya and like the White Walkers are Samsung. You know what happened there. So why is this happening? Well, Huawei's selling a tremendous amount of phones right now in their homeland of China, which you might want to kind of dismiss on the surface of it. You're figuring, well, you know, Chinese pride and stuff. But if you look across all of China, they're actually, smartphone sales in general are down. So they're still, again, somehow magically swimming against the tide. And if you're looking at their products, they have everything from a low-end phone that performs well, all the way up to some amazing high-end performance. Their new camera systems on their phones are second to none. And they don't wait to innovate. A lot of times they'll throw out some new features that Samsung takes a year to come out with. Remember that reverse charge thing on the S10? Huawei's had that for quite a while. And a bunch of other cool features. Now, if Huawei can ever negotiate with the American government to bring their phones to America, I think a lot of people are going to be really surprised. People who've never heard of this company are going to see a quality phone, a refined phone that they can buy for a good price. The disruption on the financial section of Samsung and Apple's sheets that they'll do at the end of the year is going to be absolutely tremendous. And I'm here for all of it. Let's take a look at one of their mid-sized, kind of mid-tiered phones. You can get a Huawei Mate Lite for under $300 American dollars. And even some of their really nice smartphones for like $700. Huawei knows what they're doing. They have the high end. They're going to try to do a foldable phone. RIP foldable phones. They're doing low end. They know all of these things. They've been price conscious because they've grown so much in China where price is an issue. But they also are giving value. Now, I talked about an inexpensive phone the other day from Blue. I don't like cheap phones. In general, I don't like them. But if you've ever held one of the Huawei phones or used one, or an Honor phone or an Oppo phone, all these phones are fantastic. And the sales don't lie. Look at this chart. So many of the top ends are losing sales every single year. And companies like Vivo and Huawei are gaining. And even small players in smartphone are doing amazing things. Vivo has a dual-sided, dual-screen phone. Like, it's amazing. Samsung ain't doing that. I think it's really important to remember one thing. Samsung is on top right now, and they have the resources to change everything. They just need to get ahead of the game, learn what Huawei's doing, and implement it everywhere. They barely staved off having a tremendously terrible first quarter by putting out the S10 at the time they did. And the only thing that kept them from having sales as abysmal as the S9 was the S10e. I seem to remember making a video about that. Listen, it's not all gloom and doom for Samsung, but they are really one of these companies that really values being number one and first, which is why they tried to ship the Fold so fast, and now they're holding back. So that number one position is really, really important to them. And if they don't pay attention to every little thing that everyone across the world is telling them, we don't want to pay a lot of money for flagship phones, and we're not going to upgrade every year, then they are in for some major trouble. And don't even let me talk about Apple, man. Those guys, woo, 30% year over year. Woo. So what would I do? Well, they say the good copy and the great steal. So I would steal all the things from Huawei. I would take their design, I would take their marketing, I would take all the things. And if they could buy Huawei, they should go ahead and do that as well. Let me tell you something, Huawei is set up for some success. Will they do it? Will they penetrate the US? Let me know in the comments below what you think. If Huawei makes it to America, are you buying one? Answer to that for me is 1000% yes. Give me the Mate 20, 30, 40, 50 Pro, please. Right after I buy the Note 10. If this video helped you out in any way, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And if it didn't, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. I'm here every single week, having a blast. Hope to see you again real soon. Peace and love, peace and love. Man, I need to go get me one of them Huawei phones.